We're here today with Representative Gina Mosbrucker from the 14th District of Washington along the southern tier of the state. She's also the Minority Caucus Vice Chair, is that right?
Yes.
Thanks for being here, we appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're here to talk today about a couple of bills in the legislature that are opposed by the Washington Retail Association for a number of reasons we'll get into here today. House Bill 1491 and Senate Bill 5717. Representative, you're a small business owner, which is one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you about this, because you would feel the impact of these bills. Tell us a little bit about the businesses you've owned during your career.
Certainly. My first business was at 16, and I opened a dance, gymnastic, cheerleading studio for kids. And from there, my parents started businesses over 50 years, and they started with a HVAC and air conditioning shop, and then grew that into, saved money from that one to build a convenience store, saved money from that to build a hotel. And then we saved money. They retired about 25 years ago. So they travel in the motorhome, we send money. But currently we run a Chevron station, a Papa John's Pizza, hotels where my office is, and then just other RV parks, different businesses, small businesses, just trying to keep small community alive.
Now, the legislature has considered two bills that would regulate retail scheduling. And tell us how, working from the details of these bills, tell us how they would affect your businesses one way or the other.
Sure. There were quite a few bad labor bills for businesses this session, and this was one of the top ones that we were most concerned about. So this bill would require that we give our employees 2 weeks' notice of their schedule, which sounds fantastic, but in reality it doesn't work. You know, in the hotel business, I don't know how many rooms I'm going to sell in 2 weeks from now. You know, the hotel is on a major highway. So if there's a car wreck or there's an event or a concert, we're not necessarily sure who's going to show up. Room attendants work is based on occupancy. So if we have a lot of customers, we have a lot of room attendants, housekeepers. If we don't, then they don't come in. They enjoy that schedule for the most part. They like to have the freedom to spend time with their family. This bill wouldn't work for many businesses, including a Les Schwab, for example. So we don't control the weather. We don't know if it's going to snow. If it's going to snow, then instantly you're going to need a lot of people out there switching tires, you know, doing emergency calls. It's just, it doesn't work for so many different businesses. Restaurants, I coached for 20 years at the high school, and the kids decide literally, 98 of them where they want to eat, and the driver will pull into that bus, and all of a sudden you've got, 100 kids and coaches that are going to eat at a restaurant. Businesses, in reality it doesn't work, and it's something that we're really happy stopped. It stopped February 25th. Doesn't mean it's gone, but it means that we're ready to battle if we need to go back to battle again before we leave.
Now, Seattle has a similar ordinance, and during the public hearings before the passage of that bill unanimously, there was very little documentable evidence that there was a justification for that bill. Nevertheless, it passed unanimously. I'm curious about whether there's been any evidence brought forth in the committee hearings here about the need for this bill, or either one of these bills.
Yeah, we listened to hours of testimony, and I appreciate everyone that testified. I think what they don't understand and what people weren't understanding, for example, in most of my staff, we have over 26 employees just in the hotel side. They trade constantly shifts. The rule for me is that if one has a doctor appointment or wants to go to a ballet recital and you have another that wants the hours, which often happens, small part-time businesses, they can switch, and they have to get a signature from me, or they send me a text when I'm at the Capitol. But nonetheless, they're able to trade, and they have that flexibility in the schedule. We cross-train many employees to cover that. That would take this away. You wouldn't be able to do that, and employees did testify that that would be a hardship for them to not have that flexible schedule to maintain time with their family. So I didn't hear a lot of good testimony as to why it's great. It sounds great. I mean, I as a legislator would love to have a schedule. You probably likely would like to have a schedule too that doesn't have changes, but life is intermittent, and we don't know what's going to come up, and we have to be able to be flexible with your work.
I mean, what is the justification then for mandating scheduling across the state in retail? In the retail
I think it provides people security. They know that in 2 weeks from now that they're going to work on a Saturday or a Tuesday, and they can adjust accordingly. The letters of the legislation said that you have to give that notice up to 21 days in advance. Even you wouldn't know what your schedule is. Right. If you could schedule out 2 weeks, what if your mother gets sick, or your father's sick, or your child, or an event comes up that you need to be there for? So I think that the idea behind it was great, but in the real world, it just doesn't work. And for some industries, maybe it would work. So the minute we suggested maybe this, if this is so good, it should be for everyone, public employees, legislators, legislative assistants, which that would be difficult this session especially. And then instantly it wasn't as interesting because nonprofits, I mean, people don't know schedules. We have to be flexible in life. That's part of life.
Now, these bills in the state are similar to the Seattle ordinance in that they require a retailer to give extra hours to people currently on the payroll, which arguably discourages hiring if that's what you prefer to do. How do you feel about that, or how does some of your colleagues here feel about that restriction, if you will?
Sure. Well, I think many of us do that anyway. If I have extra hours, then I offer it to staff first. The way that the bill was written is you would have to offer it to staff who weren't even trained in that position, right? I mean, in a hotel, for example, you have breakfast attendant, you have room attendants, you have front desk, you have night auditor, you have maintenance. So that wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because somebody may not even be trained in that. So you'd have to get them up to speed and be able to cover that shift. I think, it's expensive for us to hire employees. And so that's our last resort. We don't want to do a new hire because the training is so incredibly expensive. So I think that it's something that most of us do anyway. We try to cross-train in our businesses so we can do that, but sometimes there's not someone available that wants a night shift, for example, or wants to run the computer. They just want to do room attendant or breakfast, for example.
Now, you said earlier, to wrap up, that the bills didn't move out of committee.
Yes.
And around here, people consider those to be dead. Technically, they're not. Would you explain the process here, not only with the outcome this session, but the automatic introduction next year? How does that work?
Certainly. So thank you for asking. Every bill is alive 2 years, one biennium, each bill. So the bill technically won't be finished until the end of next year. The bill did stop February 25th in the House side, and we were able to explain that it doesn't work as written, and that it needed more work. It needed a work session. We need to have more discussion. So the chair was willing to stop the bill. Basically, we need to make sure that it doesn't come back. So dead to a legislator doesn't happen until the end of the biennium, because we've seen bills come from nowhere back out on the floor again, and the majority party decides that. So we're watching it constantly, making sure that it doesn't come back to life.
Well, thank you very much, Representative, for being with us today. And look forward, please, to other videos as well as this one on our website, washingtonretail.org. Thank you.